Hello and welcome to Right from the Kickoff. Right, let's talk about the headlines today. The WFTK Derby happened this weekend. Obviously, I'm happy. Will not so much. We'll be
Nope.
starting off with that. Will's not great. Then who got the better of who in the Manchester Derby? Obviously, we'll be discussing all that later on. Obviously, most of you listening to this will know the end score of that. Are Everton really firing under Super Frank? We'll also be talking about that. And did Liverpool come unstuck against Brighton, or did they not? I think you'll find they didn't at all. But anyway, moving on. We'll go to Will now. We're going to talk about the Leicester Forest game. How are you doing, Will? Because it really
Well,
wasn't a good performance for your lads, was it?
no. I think before the game, obviously there's always the edge in the air because it's not officially a local derby, but it's a local game. With Forest and Leicester being really, really close, but the game, part of me is not surprised. Like I knew Leicester were gonna kick on at some point. I just wish it hadn't been today. Well, but Forest let them play. Like we didn't press them. We were really, really poor. Yeah, 4-0 loss. Won 4-0. Forest lost 4-0. Yeah, that's all I need to say, really.
Yeah, it was.
I think the pressure is mounting on Steve Cooper, but we saw Rafa Benitez being linked with the club after the game. But frankly, I don't think it's all his fault. Clearly, all his players signings. Well, maybe a few of them, but clearly, like we haven't seen half the players who we've signed, so it just shows that it's not Steve Cooper's choices, most of them, and that's reflected in some reports were saying that that the CEO Dave Murphy, who I've been praising upon, and other parts of the recruitment team are under fire now, and they could be facing the sack as well. So it's just like I don't know. And then of course you have Onerson, only 23. He's been being scrutinised by lots of the fans because he's like the face of it almost.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen it as well, Joe, but I just want to hand it over to you, Joe. What's your opinion on Steve Cooper? Do you think this is all his fault?
Personally, and this is just from an outside point of view, obviously, as you know, because of yourself and this podcast, I follow Forest pretty much every week. I did in the Championship as well. I think it's absolutely, unequivocally nuts to even be thinking about at this stage sacking Steve Cooper. I think it is unbelievably nuts. I think we are seeing here from Forest fans, and I'm not including yourself in this because you said yourself you'd give Steve Cooper more time.
Well, to be fair, Jim, there's been a lot of support for Steve Cooper online from what
No,
I've seen as well.
I know there has, but there's also been kind of people saying he needs to go. It's 50-50.
Yeah, that's always going to happen, though. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
I wouldn't say the whole fan base has turned against him, but certainly a large proportion of them have. But I think the fact that it's even being talked about for me is crazy. Let's just look at a few stats, shall we? Okay, so you've had a ridiculous smorgasbord of managers trying to get you up into the Premier League. Okay, they've all failed. You've been out the top flight up until this season for 23 years. You've been praying and begging to get back into the Premier League. You've finally done it, right? We're 8 games in, and you were always going to struggle with the amount of signings you made. Let's be honest, everybody knew it with half a brain. He's lost 18 players he worked with last season. He's brought in 23 new players. So the main core of the squad that got him up's not there anymore because of the loan players, right? You're asking him to incorporate players. Yes, very good players. Serge Aurier. You've got Dennis. You've brought in players from overseas who look very good and capable at this level once they get a bit of time under the belt. Right, but ask Steve Cooper to ask any manager to incorporate 23 players, new players, into the squad. when you're coming into one of the toughest leagues in the world in terms of trying to stay in it at least is almost impossible. And I just kind of feel like it doesn't matter what Steve Cooper had done at the start of this season. It doesn't matter how he'd have got you playing. I think you're always going to struggle because it's the first 8 games, and some of these guys probably don't even know their second names.
Yeah,
let alone.
That is one of the things that Steve Cooper said after games. He said, "We don't look like a team. Like we don't. We just look like we've never met Arvin before," which is probably the case, and it's just showing in the performances. It's just so disjointed. Like sometimes we can play okay, but then we just throw it away. Hence why we throw away goals in quick succession, which has happened in the last 3 games. Like once our heads down, there's no one team cohesion needed to like say, "All right, lads, let's pick it up now." I think it's exactly that as well, isn't it? On top of not performing very well anyway.
I think it's a case of, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter how good your squad is. Your squad, I think, is if you had time, if you had another 2 years, your squad is good enough to stay in this league. I genuinely believe that. But I think we saw it with Fulham, and I mean they're actually reaping the rewards of it this season so far. Although they did get smashed against Newcastle, which we'll go into later.
Yeah.
But they are reaping the rewards of it this season because they've had time together. Whereas, you look at them a couple of seasons ago when they had the likes of Ranieri in charge for a stint and all that, they just couldn't cope because there was too many players, and that it took them more than a season to gel. You look at Mitrovic, he only scored 5 goals in the Prem first time round, not even that, and he's already scored more. So I just feel like with Forest, it might be a case of grind your teeth, and it might be a case of you going down. I know the worry is, will you get back up? But I also feel like you had a manager who, let's not forget, Will, right? And again, I'm not aiming this at you, but you are a Forest fan, so I'm kind of talking to the whole Forest fan base when I address you, obviously.
Okay, right? These aren't my opinions.
Yeah, I'm not saying that these are your opinions. But to the Forest fans who want Steve Cooper out, a season ago, 7 games in, right? Where were you? Will, can you just remind the Forest fans and yourself where you were at this point last season?
We were bottom of the table.
Yeah.
With 1 point.
With 1 point, right? So you'd not won a game in 7 games. It looked like you were going to get relegated. And I remember the online backlash of kind of obviously wanting Hooten out and getting Steve Cooper in. Obviously, he starts winning games. He starts winning games, and obviously you push up, and there's no question if he'd have been in at the start of the season, you'd have got automatically promoted. There's no question about that, right? But the point I'm trying to make is, unfortunately, Steve Cooper is a victim of his own success a little bit.
Yeah, literally.
I feel like if he'd have finished mid-table or just outside the playoffs, you'd have still been kind of lauding him as a great manager and somebody who can really take you forward, right? Yeah. But he's overachieved, let's be honest, from where you were last season. I'm not saying it's an overachievement for the club. I'm saying from where you were last season, it's a massive overachievement. And now he's in the Premier League, and there's fans. There's actually fans out there that are asking for him to get the sack. Like, from an outsider's point of view, from where you were, from the kind of person I am that follows Forest, it does sound a little bit insane. And I understand you want to stay in the Premier League. I get that completely. That is the main target. But to give this guy 8 games with 23 new signings, when you know what he can play like, I know it's the Championship level, but I've seen the football he can play as a manager. Like, I honestly find, that's my honest opinion, I find it perplexing. I don't get it personally. That opinion personally, I don't get it.
Yeah, I think it's just a succession of losses. Really, like that's always going to happen. Fans demand more. You know what it's like, Joe.
Yeah, the goalposts change, don't they?
Exactly, 100%. But let's move on to Leicester then. So the golden question there is: Maddison being this England call after that performance. I know the past performances, not just that one, the past performances over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think he should. Do I think Gareth Southgate's going to pick him at this late stage? Bear in mind that he should have been called up into the last two England squads, in my opinion. He's not got his foot in the door, has he? He's not part of the Southgate crew, so to speak. He's definitely not Southgate's favourite. Obviously, he's not. He's only had one cap, which is ridiculous. I just feel like he's not the style of player that Southgate wants in his team. We know that Southgate is inherently a boring defensive manager, and Southgate's done a lot for the team. He's done a lot for the country because we at a time when we needed a manager like that to be defensively solid, we needed someone like Southgate because we were leaking goals. Obviously, forgetting Big Sam, but the point is we hired Big Sam so we could not leak as many goals as we were doing. And same with Southgate, it's defensive manager, but I just feel like with the talent we've got at the moment, I don't think he's the manager to take these guys forward. But that's not the point. The point is, should Maddison be in the squad? 100%, he should be on that plane to Qatar. But will he be? I don't think so. I genuinely think unless he scores braces from now until the end of October and kind of really puts himself on top of the table of like assists and goals for midfielders. He's got to keep knocking on that door, which is what he's doing. He's doing everything he can. He's literally playing some of the best stuff he's played in a very poor Leicester side this season so far. Do I think he's going to get on the plane? No. Do I think he should be? Without question. It's not even really a debate anymore, is it? I think most sort of sensible people know that he should be on the plane.
100%.
But it's just this kind of whole thing of like, oh, they need Champions League football, they need this, they need that, they need this. I mean, the guy's not picking Trent, right? And Trent, I'll admit, right, Trent has had a poor season so far. Scored against Rangers last night, great free kick. But what do Maddison and Trent have in common?
But they aren't being picked.
Well, that they aren't being picked, and they're both attacking players in their positions.
Yeah, I think in terms of Trent, I think it's because it's like defensive frailty is letting down.
Yeah, but you can't. For me personally, I mean, I'm also a big fan of Trent. Trent's one of my favourite players in the Premier League. I honestly think probably behind Haaland, because I'd be crazy not to, but behind Haaland, Trent is the one player I would pick from any club to have in the Leicester squad. Just because his range of passing is ridiculous. But that
apart from a decent goalkeeper as well.
Yeah, I'm getting off. Well, I mean, we managed to keep a clean sheet against you, didn't we? But anyway.
Oh, yeah. Hard.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you guys couldn't score in a brothel. But yeah, just going on to Leicester. So obviously we talked a bit about Maddison. Going on to Leicester, I honestly thought, and this might surprise you a little bit. Obviously, really happy with the result. Massive difference in kind of how I'm feeling about the whole situation, everything. And Will knows why, but I will be putting this out there on the podcast, and you'll understand why I'm doing this. Well, I won't say why, but I am unequivocally, and I said this before the Forest game, I am backing Brendan Rodgers now. I've put a couple of things out on social media that is kind of contrary to that, but I mean, you shouldn't be surprised because you know the reason why I'm backing him.
Yeah,
I've got no choice. But anyway, so obviously I'm backing Brendan Rodgers, so we've got to get behind the team, and we are coming up to some favourable fixtures now for us in terms of games that we can.
Yeah, I think this next run for Leicester is going to be huge, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it massively is. I mean, we win against Bournemouth on Saturday, and we're out the relegation zone. And I think we will be if we get a win. I think somebody else will drop in if we get a win.
Yeah.
But I mean, with if we win, we go out anyway because of the teams yet to play over the weekend. So it's an incentive for us to just get out of that and put the pressure on the other teams to get the win.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, not only that, if we go and beat Bournemouth, we've then got Crystal Palace at home, Leeds at home, and Wolves at home. All teams in and around the bottom at the moment, or all teams that you can conceivably see as getting points from. I don't think Leeds are quite in that bottom pack yet, but they certainly could be. And I just feel like, honestly, it felt like a changing moment for us on Monday a little bit. I know we were against a very, and I cannot stress to you, and I'm sorry to say this, well, I cannot stress to you or any of the viewers watching how poor Forest were. So poor. But does it give us a sort of some kind of momentum going into the next game? Of course it does. And if we can get a win, I don't care what it is, but we need to win against Bournemouth. Otherwise, the win against Forest basically means nothing.
Yeah, literally, you have to sustain it now, don't you?
Yeah, we do. But I think we could be looking, if honestly, if we have a great October, which is obviously a great start to it, if we have a great October, we could comfortably by the end of it be sitting mid-table with the games we've got. And it's not inconceivable, and you'd agree with that, with the games that we've got in October. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, easily. Because
so,
like if Forest win the next game against Villa, we could be outside the relegation zone, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's all very close down there, isn't it? You know, it is all very close, and you know, we'll see what happens. But I would just love Leicester not to be in that conversation of, oh, they might get relegated. Just for a couple of weeks would be nice.
Yeah, I think it'll become more. I think all will become clear as we go into the World Cup for that break. So I think that's when we'll paint the picture where you're like, yeah, okay, now the table actually means something.
Yeah, of course it does. But no, I think with Leicester, I'm really happy we got the win. And I said this to you, and I'd like to point out as well. Usually, me and you are quite fiery when it comes into these games. We were when it came to the FA Cup.
We were just so down. We were like, well,
yeah,
we're both kind of crap.
it was a case of both of us saying that regardless of what happens, especially from my point of view, regardless of what happens, I said to you before the game, I'm not gloating whatever the result is, because we are still in a position where we need to get out of it, you know, and Forest would have been the same, although you'd have gone on to 7 points if you'd have won. I think the worrying thing for you is, and I think a lot of fans, and I don't know whether you echo the same, is, you know, you've lost against Bournemouth at home, you lost against Fulham at home, and now you got beat by obviously I know it was away, but you got beat by what has been a very poor Leicester side so far this season. Is that a worry for you, kind of the teams you've faced and you've lost against?
I think
it's slightly worrying.
The Bournemouth game we shouldn't have lost. We just threw that one away. But yeah, I completely agree. I think if we had one against Bournemouth, it would have completely changed the complexion of how we are feeling, because it's all a confidence game at the end of the day. If you're a new team, if you keep losing, you're going to be more likely to lose. But if you win a few games, you're going to get that confidence, and then you're going to be more of a team as a result, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it before we came on air, Will. I mean, look at my confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of
it's a very fickle game, isn't it?
Right. Anyway, moving on. We've had about sort of 18 minutes, 19 minutes of talking about all that stuff. So moving on, we're going to talk about the Manchester Derby. And to be honest, I don't think there's any other place to start other than Haaland.
Haaland, wow.
I mean, go on, Will. You just tell me, what do you think? I mean,
he's going to break all the records this season, obviously. Another hat-trick, a 6-3 victory against Manchester United. It was 6-1, and then Man City were like, they just kind of stopped. They were like, okay, we'll make 5 subs now, and then they just kind of completely took the foot off the accelerator. Some of the goals were just out of this world. Like, the way they can just cut through any defence is just scary, isn't it? And Haaland is just knows where the ball needs to go, and that is
freak of nature.
A freak of nature indeed. And you just get the impression that they're not even out of first gear, have they? They haven't really been. I know they've drawn 2, but like they haven't hit the heights what they could reach. Like, it's just scary stuff.
The problem is, say if Man City have 6 gears, right, against obviously 6-3 winners against Man United. I don't think they didn't really ever. They maybe touched 4th gear against Man United. There was no kind of real hardship about it. I mean, let's get something straight. Man United were poor. Like, they were very poor.
I think they were just scared, weren't they?
Yeah, I think the issue they had was, and I've always said this against Man City, to give yourself a fighting chance. And tactically, this is how I would set up. And I'm not a manager, but I wonder whether you agree with this, Will. You might think the same. I'm not a manager, but you really need to flood that midfield. And in terms of, to give yourself a fighting,
I've been saying for Forest as well.
Yeah, to give yourself a fighting chance, because you need more bodies. When you've got players like De Bruyne, when you've got players of Phil Foden's quality, of Grealish's quality, that also drift into the middle to really
just play between the lines.
They do. And you need to flood that midfield. Man United didn't do that. They had McTominay, who for me is sort of at best a bottom half to sort of middling a Premier League player. I still don't know how he's getting game time for United.
That's what Man United are at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And you got Casemiro on the bench as well that you've bought in for 60 mil, 70 mil. Who can't get in ahead of McTominay. Which, don't get me wrong, McTominay's been good for United from what I've seen, but, like, come on, do you know what I mean? The fact that he's still being picked is a bit of a weird one. And then you've got, obviously, Eriksen, who they had in that midfield, but they kept drifting forward. And as soon as you drift forward, you've got the likes of Grealish, Foden coming off the wings, flood that space. De Bruyne turns, Haaland's making that run, dropping in, then going again with his unbelievably scary acceleration. And I just feel like it was just so poor. But yeah, what do you make of United so far this season? Because they won the last 4 games, but
they picked it up since the new manager came in, and I think Man City is just a freak of nature. Arguably, they've been the best side in Europe for the last 3 or 4 years. I know they haven't won in Champions League, but they tend to bottle the final or semi-final, don't they? But just a different kettle of fish for Manchester United, and these kind of games won't define Manchester United season. I think they'll be happy with a top 6 finish, don't you think?
Oh no, but this is the thing. Like when Man United fans have a go at how they played against City, and when they sort of they sit there and they go, I hate to break it to United fans, you're a big club, but you are so far off the pace when it comes to Man City. It is unbelievable.
And they have been before. Like, didn't you? Who was it? Guy Mowbray said that when Sir Alex was asked like 5-10 years ago, like, will you ever finish above Man United? He was like, not even in my lifetime. And Guy Mowbray was like, he said, not even his lifetime. Well, now it's every time.
Yeah, I did hear that, and he's right. I mean, it's ridiculous. The two clubs have literally gone in opposite directions. But yeah, it's nice 6-3 win for Man City. Question for you, Will, very quick one before we move on to the next games. Do you think that Man City can, and I'm not saying they will, but can they go unbeaten all season?
There's no reason why they can't. Honestly, if they hit the heights and sustain it, I don't see why they can't. But we've been saying it the last 3 years, haven't we, Joe?
Yeah, that we have, and they've still got to play teams like Liverpool, Arsenal still, and obviously Leicester City. So it's going to be.
And if okay, Joe.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, they're not even top of the table. Arsenal are, and that's a very nice segue to the North London Derby, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a lovely segue, right? Were you surprised by this result?
I think seeing how Arsenal have started this season, absolutely not. I think the patience over the last years, where so many Arsenal fans were calling for Arteta's head, is just
You're right there, Will. Do you want some water?
sorry. I had a little, I had a bit of a moment there. Arteta's head. I think it's paying dividends now because like they're just unbelievable, and the signing Jesus and Zinchenko from Man City, it's just completely changed ethos of the team completely, and it's just unbelievable this season, haven't they? And
they made some great signings, but I have to say, and I'll give him his dues as well, because I've not been his biggest fan. We've actually poked a bit of fun at him on this podcast for one or two red cards. But Xhaka this season, I don't know, he's just a different player. It's almost like he's the player that Arsenal thought they'd sign when they signed him. He's just a different animal this year, which is weird to say when you talk about a player that genuinely I thought was average at best.
Yeah, I think that all goes down to as well, apart from training and such, and ethos, it's all a confidence game. If you win all these games, you start to play well, you're going to feel better about yourself, and you're going to have that confidence to make that pass like you wouldn't before. You would trust your own abilities, and I think that's completely what we're seeing this season, isn't it?
And it's funny to say, but obviously Odegaard's the captain, and obviously Xhaka himself has come under some controversy and kind of incidents that made him lose that captaincy by kind of chucking his shirt off at half time a couple of seasons ago after he'd been sent off, kind of cupping his ears to the fans as they were booing him coming off. But if you saw at the weekend, if you watched the game, he was very much the captain on the pitch.
Yeah.
And after they scored, he was like, "Come on, don't lose your heads," kind of thing, and all this sort of stuff. Like, let's keep going, and was very much the vocal player that you'd want in the middle of the park as well. So not only did he score a goal and he's playing some terrific football, he really is kind of living up to that captain expectation and that captain hype. I mean, obviously he's not going to get the armband back, but I honestly don't think that if, and this is how much of a redemption arc it's been for him, I honestly don't think there'd be many Arsenal fans complaining about it if he was to get it back.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is ridiculous, really, when you think about it, because you think about these players not being able to come back from things like that, but shows his strength and his character. And he's the type of player that I would love to have in my side, because he's not the most skillful. He's not the most, he's not gonna score goals that make you sit back and kind of go, wow. But you need those kind of engines in that midfield. And he really is, like you say, he's looking for a pass. He really is kind of running that team at the moment. And I've got to say hats off to him, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. And deserve it. Victors against Tottenham in the end.
It was easy as well, I thought. It was very easy. Tottenham, even when it was 1-1 and Kane put the penalty away, you never really thought they were going to go on and win it. And fair play to Arsenal, after they conceded, just continued in the same vein and obviously got the 2 goals that got them winning 3-1.
Do you think it was a red card?
Right. Before I answer this question, I don't think it would have made a difference to the scoreline. Arsenal were fully on top, and I think they were already winning by that point anyway. But in the modern game, yes. Do I think it was a bit harsh? In reality, yes, I do. So I can't really answer that question. It's a bit of a yes and a no for me, because I can see why it was given.
I don't think he intended it like that. But
yeah,
I think it just, I don't know if he misstepped or something, but
I mean, Emerson Royale,
that's how you break someone's ankle, isn't it?
Yeah, Emerson Royale has been one of Tottenham's weakest players this season. And there's a lot of Tottenham fans that I've spoken to, watched online, etc., that don't really know how he's in the squad. When you've got the likes of Jed Spence, Basuma sitting on the bench as well, who they've brought in, who can't get a game for Tottenham. When you're not playing great, and Tottenham haven't been for the last couple of games, sort of, couple of game weeks, and I feel like there are a few losing patience with Conte a bit for selecting the same team, because if you look at the Frankfurt team, against, last night that they played in the Champions League, it was the same team as they played against Arsenal.
Yeah.
I don't think that's not great man. I mean, I'm not one to question Conte. Conte is a world-class manager, and obviously I'm just some idiot with his opinion. But personally, for me, that was probably a great opportunity to take some of the players who got some heat on the weekend out the firing line and put some new blood in. Maybe give Jed Spencer go instead of Emerson Royale. And maybe put Basuma in that midfield just to kind of shore things up a little bit. That kind of stuff, just to take a few of those players who got some heat the weekend out and some of the new blood in. Don't know what you think about that from a Tottenham perspective.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. Like they need to keep it fresh. They don't want anything to like stagnate. So yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah,
I think it'll be interesting to see how Spurs go from here, because they are still doing well in the Champions League, and they are third at the end of the day. So it's not like they're playing badly. They've only lost one game all season.
I think
So
I think this is something, just very quickly before we move on again, and I want to get your opinion on this. Is obviously we're talking about it from two clubs who are sitting sort of bottom of the Premier League, bottom two still. The pressures down at the bottom are going to be very different to the pressures at the top, and I think obviously fans are very high demanding. I don't think Tottenham deserve to be that high demand, like that highly demanding of managers and players, because let's just point out the fact, because I'll always point this out, that Leicester have got one more Premier League and one more FA Cup than they have got in the past 30 years. So, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you can sit there and say you're a top six because of your finances, but that's the only reason. It's not because of how many trophies you're winning. But yeah, what's your opinion on that?
I'd say, like, Tottenham have been playing well the last few seasons. There's no denying that. But I think being them in third place, I think Conte deserves to carry on. Like, if he's the manager, yes, he should put more fresh blood in there, but he should still have the chance to do that, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I'm just asking the questions. I'm not saying I think Conte should get the sack or anything. I just think that there's a couple of fans that are a bit unrested by what he's doing. But
yeah,
Tottenham, Tottenham fans are like, we want expansive football, we want this, we want that, we want to be an attacking team. Let's look at the last couple of managers they've had. Mourinho, defensive manager. Nuno, defensive manager, and even Conte, great manager, but again, defensive manager. So it's like, you're saying, oh, we need a change, we need this, but actually the makeup and the style of the manager they're hiring is the same. So, I'm not saying that these managers aren't world class, because they have been definitely in their time. Maybe not Nuno, but definitely Mourinho and Conte. But yeah, it's just a weird one. Anyway, moving on. I'll briefly, I think this is kind of the last section we'll do on this, very briefly, but let's talk about Everton.
Okay.
I want to talk about Everton because I feel like we both thought they were going to do fairly badly. Especially defensively and stuff. Interesting stat: they've conceded 7 goals in the Premier League so far, the least out of any team. What do you make of that? And do you think that Frank is really turning things around at Everton and kind of showing what he's all about?
I think they are. Like, he didn't have the best start. We both know that. But considering the last few games, so let's take it back from the Leeds match on the 30th of August, 1-1. Brentford, 1-1. Forest. Everton, 1-0 against West Ham. 0-0 against Liverpool. And now 2-1 against Southampton. Like, he has really turned it around. And I think this is why giving managers time is so important, because a manager can have a bad start of the season, but that doesn't mean that's how they're going to finish the season. Like, it's a very fickle game, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, talking about managers in that sense, and I'm sorry to harp on about Leicester, but this could be something that we talk about in a couple of months with Brendan Rodgers. The amount of heat he's coming under. Again, I know we only have one win, and I'm not saying that, but that's exactly what you're talking about with Frank Lampard, and I agree. He had so much heat at the start of the season, obviously coming off a bad campaign, but now he's not even been looked at for the sack now, is he?
No, exactly. It just shows how things can change in a few weeks, can't it?
Yeah, for sure. But at the end of the day, everyone knows it, and the managers know it, the players know it, the fans know it. It's a results game. So if you don't win games, if you don't get points, you are going to come under fire. It's that simple.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think obviously Frank's managed to turn it around, and I'm sure plenty of other managers will. I'm sure plenty of other managers won't. But we'll see what happens. But no. I think the result against Southampton was a good one. Do you worry for Southampton still? They're not really picking up that many points. Obviously, they got a win against Leicester earlier on the season. They've got a couple of draws and stuff, but they're kind of stagnating a bit.
That's why I think there's a lot of quite poor teams in the league this season, if I'm being honest. So that's why the likes of Forest and Leicester. That's why one win can still take us out of the relegation zone already. That just shows the quality of a few teams down there. Look, have a look at Villa, have got 8 points. West Ham have got 7. Southampton have got 7. Palace have got 6. Wolves 6, and Leicester 4 and Forest 4. This is still really, really tight, and it's still early on. So
anything can happen, can't it?
Exactly, that's my point. Exactly, yeah.
I mean that win for Leicester's really, we could have been cut adrift. Luckily, we're not at the moment, and I think it's made a massive difference for us.
Yeah, 100%.
But just a very quick one as well before we kind of wrap up and do the sort of just look at a few key fixtures coming up to this weekend. Just want to talk about Liverpool. They obviously 3-3 against Brighton. Brighton lost Graham Potter. They brought in a new manager who, for the life of me, I can't remember his name. Sorry about that. But they drew 3-3, stuck to the very much attacking football that we know Brighton can play. I've been really, really impressed with Brighton this year. I think just the attacking, free-flowing football they've got, and it looks like they've gone for a manager who's going to be in the same vein, which is why would you go away from what Graham Potter has built?
Exactly, yeah.
And
especially because he didn't get sacked.
What do you say? Sorry.
Especially because, like you say, he didn't get sacked, so that's why they're still on a high.
Yeah.
They're in 4th place for context.
Yeah, of course, and you know what? A 3-3 draw away at Liverpool, and there was times where Brighton were the better side comfortably, and they went 2-0 up. Obviously, but I think what I want to say about Brighton is, and I know I said I'd talk about Liverpool, but Brighton, the resilience they showed in that game just shows you what type of squad mentality they've got at the moment.
Yeah, the heads could have easily dropped when it went 3-2.
Yeah. The fact that they went down 3-2, so they conceded 3 goals, quite a quick succession, an own goal as well. You're thinking, right, okay, Liverpool are going to win this 4-5-2, and no. They came back and Trossard scored a hat-trick. What a player, by the way. He's a great player. He can really get in between the lines and get a few good shots away. Great player. But yeah, Liverpool, if you're a Liverpool fan, would you be worried? I mean, in context of the league, you would be. But, I mean, what's Klopp doing wrong?
I think, like we said before, he's just a victim of his own successes. Any kind of drop in performances, it's gonna show, because every team who goes to Liverpool are going to it's their cup final, isn't it? Really.
It's true.
And I think they haven't been starting very well, and I'm surprised Klopp isn't under more pressure, if I'm being honest. Which is crazy to say.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like who do you go for though? That's the thing. You've got to improve on what you've had, and I think he's been there 7 years. Maybe it's stagnating a little bit, but he's kind of really his first rough patch as Liverpool manager. Because if you think back to the early years, they were building something, so it was never, even if they went through a bit of a bad patch of results.
Yeah, it was understandable.
It was understandable because he was kind of chopping and changing the team. So I think for Klopp, I think can understand why they're giving him time. I think if he was to get the sack, I think there's a few Liverpool fans, but let's be honest, Liverpool fans that are the ones that saying, "Oh, he needs a sack, he needs to go," are the armchair fans, the ones who never actually go to Anfield, and the ones that kind of are the big supporters. The core of the club will want him to stay. I personally think he'll manage to turn it around. They've got good enough players. Obviously, got a win last night against, all admittedly, a poor Rangers side.
Yeah, and it is Rangers.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I mean. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But I don't feel, how we were kind of like, oh, Man City will win, Liverpool will win. It's nailed on sort of thing. It's not nailed on for Liverpool anymore.
No, exactly. And I think
not sure.
I think they'll be lucky to finish in the top three, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Liverpool's, what they're wanting to achieve. Top four is a must for them, isn't it? That's top four. If they finish outside the top four, it would be an absolute disastrous season. So yeah, that's what they've kind of got. They've got to still aim for. But I think, honestly, I think in terms of a title, no offense to Liverpool fans if you're listening, but I think it's already done.
I don't. 10, 11 points adrift already.
I don't see Man City dropping that many points. And then Liverpool would need if they were going to win the title, would need to win every game from now until the end of the season.
And you can't see that happening.
No. Liverpool will drop at least another 5, 6. Possibly even up to 15 points, to be honest, with the way they're going. And it might be more. But yeah, I think Man City are just going to run away with the league, and it's no disrespect to Arsenal. I know Arsenal are first, but you just look at Man City and what they've got, you just think, yeah. Right, moving on to the game week. What have we got, Will, coming up games wise?
Have a quick look. So on Saturday we've got Bournemouth Leicester. So that's a 6-pointer for that game, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'll show you what Leicester's about.
Feeling more confident than I would have done before Monday night, for sure. We need to win this game. This game's as important as the Forest game, in my opinion. Just because if we win this game, I can genuinely see us having finishing mid-table this season. Sounds ridiculous, but I genuinely can see us finishing mid-table if we win this game. If we lose it, the pressure's back on Brendan. Fans get restless. All this, that, and the other. So it's really important. Draw's not good enough. We need 3 points.
Yeah. Let's go through this quickly. So we've got Chelsea Wolves. I think Chelsea probably win that one. Man City Southampton. Again, this could be a high-scoring game. It could be a quicker score, this one, couldn't it, Joe?
Could be another 9-0 for Southampton's record.
It could.
Man United 9-0, Leicester 9-0, and now Man City 9-0. Why not? I mean, they are ridiculous.
Might as well go for the hat-trick.
Yeah, exactly.
Newcastle Brentford. I think this would be quite a good game. I think Newcastle will edge it, don't you?
Yeah, I think Newcastle have impressed me so far this season. They've only had 2 wins, but they've been very, they've played the likes of Man City and actually been one of the teams to get points off Man City this season. They've played well. They've got quite a few draws, and yeah, Newcastle. Isak looks quite a threat. Callum Wilson's back to fitness. They've got a good side there, and they'll be absolutely fine this season. They'll be pushing for what we said, top 8 this season, I think.
Yeah, another big game, Brighton, Tottenham. I think this could go either way, given both the teams' form.
I think I personally think I'd honestly, with the week that Tottenham have had and the way that Tottenham play, I honestly think I'd edge Brighton on this one, personally.
Yeah. Palace Leeds. That'd be an interesting game.
That's a Leicester Brighton one. That is in terms of 6. Leicester Brighton, Leicester Bournemouth one in terms of 6-pointer, because they're both kind of having a bit of a dip in form.
Yeah. West Ham Fulham.
West Ham Fulham. I think
Fulham will be favourites.
No, I personally think I think Fulham are going to be on a bit of a downturn of form. I think obviously West Ham beat Wolves. I think West Ham will win this one. Because remember, Fulham lost 4-1 to Newcastle. So
Arsenal Liverpool, this is a big game because I think Man City could actually be turned in favour by Liverpool here. Like, honestly, but I think Arsenal will go into this game full of confidence, and I think I will actually be favourites.
yeah, it's a difficult one because you don't know what sort of Liverpool you're going to get. I'd still, in the back of my mind, back Liverpool on this one.
Yeah. Everton, Manchester United, big game.
If
Man United are serious about Europe, they need to win this game.
Yeah, I mean that's a difficult one to say because as we've said earlier on the show, like Everton aren't the whipping. They're not conceding goals for fun at the moment, are they? They're actually, like, Frank Lampard ridiculously has got them quite playing defensively sound. Connor Cody's made
exactly.
I mean, weirdest transfer of the season, Wolves to Everton. You know, Connor Cody, best centre back. I don't get it. But yeah, whatever. Fair play. But I think Connor Cody's made a massive difference. I think have Everton got an option to buy on that one?
I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, I think they might do. In which case, see you later, Wolves. He's off to Everton. But yeah,
probably. And then finally, Forest, Aston Villa, which is another huge game. In terms of Forest needs something about Forest to be at home, so hopefully the home fans can get behind them.
What
and
score,
we can get
score
something from the
prediction
game.
for that one? Will, score prediction? What do you think?
Anything? I don't actually know. I'm hoping that we'll get something, but judging by latest performances, I haven't been impressed. So
I mean,
hopefully we can turn it around.
You were very. I mean, I can't. I hate. I'm sorry to keep saying this, Will, but you were poor on Monday, like so poor.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. I'll take a point at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
At any point, I'll take a point.
Just get anything. I mean, you could be 3 points behind Leicester, hopefully, at that point.
Well, we'll see. But yeah, these are all our fixtures, Joe.
Yeah, awesome. Joe asks, Will tells, do you think, just a very quick one, do you think managers are given enough time in modern day football? And if not, why not? In terms of, do you reckon it's a number of things, or like, do you think that Steve Cooper has been given enough time? You know, would you be surprised if he went? Like, what's your opinion?
I think no, because of money. That's all I need to say.
Yeah, exactly. Right, guys, like we said before, I probably didn't mention, but make sure you like us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. We're also on TikTok. Make sure you give us a like and a follow for more content.